Perspective now on the German terror incident and how it affects Europe and the U.S. Steve Hilton is a former advisor to then British Prime Minister David Cameron. He joins us from New York. Steve, thank you for your time tonight. How do you think this will impact the conversation about the reality of the influx of millions of refugees throughout Europe and just, although people have very, charitable impulses, being able to protect people at the same time?
Well, Shannon, that's exactly right. Look, I have family in Germany, and I know that over the last year or so, when this problem has been building, on an individual human level, people in Germany have responded very compassionately. They have taken in refugees, they've looked after them, they've given to charity. But actually, when you look at it in terms of government policy, it's been a complete disaster. And it's been a disaster not just for Germany, but for the whole of Europe. And what it's pointed out, actually, is the flaw in the central idea, really, in the modern European Union, which is this notion of open borders. Because when Angela Merkel said to those refugees, come to Germany, you're welcome here, actually, she wasn't just doing that for Germany. She was creating an incentive for them to come all the way through Europe, because you can't just keep it in one country. And so that caused problems throughout the continent. And now you're seeing the political response to that throughout the continent, where people are saying, you know what, we've had enough of this system of centralized bureaucratic control that means that we as individual countries can't take the action that we think is necessary to protect our own security and our own long-term interests.
Yeah, and my understanding is that the suspect in the Berlin attack actually entered in through Italy, wound up in Germany, had sought asylum there. We've got some numbers on the top 6 European countries when it comes to asylum seekers, and Germany is clearly at the top of that list with over 360,000 people seeking asylum there. Italy is a distant second with less than 50,000. Is there an undoing of this? Is there a righting of this? We know that Chancellor Merkel is facing re-election next year, and sounds a little bit different tune than we heard from her before.
Well, it's very difficult to see the present leadership in Europe doing anything about it, because for them, the idea of open borders is sacrosanct. It is absolutely part of what the European Union is. So, for example, in the negotiations over Brexit, over the UK leaving the European Union, one of the arguments is, well, could the UK still have access to the single market, the economic benefits of the European Union, whilst controlling its borders? And basically the message is coming back from Germany, really the leading country in the EU, no, if you want to be in the EU, you have to accept open borders. So I think the only way this is actually going to change is through the political system, through electing new governments that actually have a different view. Now, actually, next year, there is the prospect of that, because in France, for example, you have Marine Le Pen doing very well there politically, who's basically said she's not just in favor of having a referendum on being in the EU, but actually, if elected, would begin the process of leaving. And so it is possible to see the whole unraveling of this institution that, until Brexit happened, I guess we all thought would be there forever.
And obviously there is an indirect impact ultimately on the U.S. as well. This is something the president-elect talked about endlessly on the campaign trail, and now he's getting new questions about what it means as far as his plans regarding people entering our country from other countries in certain places. Here's a bit of what he had to say yesterday when he was asked about the Berlin situation and his policies or proposals.
What's going on this Friday? Has it caused you to rethink or reevaluate your plans to create a Muslim registry or ban Muslim immigration in the United States?
Hey, you know my plans all along, and I've been proven to be right, 100% correct. What's happening is disgraceful.
And Steve, may have been a little bit tough for you to hear, but he was asked, has this caused you to rethink or reevaluate your plans to create a Muslim registry or ban Muslim immigration to the U.S.? He says, you've known my plans all along. I've been proven to be right, 100% correct. Your reaction?
Well, I think that, to me, that sounded very much like, if I may say, a pretty typical politician's answer, which Donald Trump, I'm sure, wouldn't like me saying. But it felt like that was not particularly committing to anything. I think that he can claim legitimately that he's been right in his characterization of the threat that we face from radical Islamic terrorism. That is true. But his plans have evolved during the course of the campaign. He started off very clearly indicating just over a year ago that there would be, he suggested banning all Muslims from entering the U.S., and that changed over the course of the campaign to this notion of extreme vetting. I didn't take what he said yesterday as confirming in any way the Muslim ban or the Muslim registry. I think it was just something that he said in order to just sort of keep the issue quiet until he's actually in office and can start to really implement his core plan, which I think is about extreme vetting.
All right, Steve Hilton, we've got to leave it there. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Shannon.